Good evening. My name is Pastor Kathy Kollar. I'm the pastor of Pleasant Valley Lutheran Church near Malabar Farm and St. Paul Lutheran Church in Lucas, Ohio. Greetings. We are reading through the Bible. We are up to Genesis chapter 18. Actually, we're about halfway through the chapter. We're going to start at verse 16 and do the rest of chapter 18 and the rest of chapter 19. Yesterday, we were hearing about Abraham. Abram became Abraham, Sarai became Sarah. They had visitation from God, which came in the form of three men. And the three men, it was very important that they greet these three men, which is possibly a theophany, the appearance of God the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the Creator, the Redeemer, the Spirit, all coming at the same time, potentially. At any rate, God took the form of three men, and Abraham and Sarah did a lot of hospitality, and I was talking about how very important hospitality was in the ancient Near East. So that when I start out to say when the men, that's who we're talking about, is the three men who came and appeared to Abraham and told him that in a year Sarah would have a son, and Sarah laughed. And the son is going to be named Isaac, which is he laughed or they laughed. Then the men set out from there. Which men? The three men that came to visit. And they looked toward Sodom. And Abraham went with them and set them on their way, which is something that we still kind of do sometimes, even in the Midwest. You see somebody to the door, or you see somebody even out the door and down the sidewalk and out to the car, and have a good Midwestern goodbye and say, half an hour to say goodbye. Kind of like that, to set them on their way, so walk with them for a little while as they leave Abraham. The Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do, seeing that Abraham shall become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? No, for I have chosen him that he may charge his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring about for Abraham what he has promised him." So the Lord is discussing amongst the Lord's self. Should I tell Abraham? And yes, we should, because we want there to be how important it is to be righteous. Then the Lord said, "How great is the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah, and how very grave their sin. I must go down and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me. If not, I will know." So the men turned from there and went toward Sodom, while Abraham remained standing before the Lord. So now somehow the three men are not the Lord. I don't know how that works. I don't know what that means. At any rate, the Lord and the men are talking, whether it's the Lord and two angels, or the Lord and three men. Angels are messengers, so who knows? At any rate, the Lord is still there talking to Abraham. So Abraham came near and said, "Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you then sweep away the place and not forgive it for the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just?" And of course, Abraham knows that his nephew Lot lives down there in Sodom. And the Lord said, "If I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will forgive the whole place for their sake." So Abraham answered, "Let me take it upon myself to speak to the Lord, I who am but dust and ashes, us humans made out of just dirt. Suppose 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking. Will you destroy the whole city for the lack of 5? And he said, "I will not destroy it if I find 45 there." Again he spoke to him. "Suppose 40 are found there." He answered, "For the sake of 40, I will not do it." Then he said, "Oh, do not let the Lord be angry if I speak. Suppose 30 are found there." He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. He said, let me take it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 are found there. So originally it was 5 at a time, for 50 to 45 to 40, but now we're down to 30 to 20. Suppose 20 are found there. He answered, for the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. Then he said, oh, do not let the Lord be angry if I speak just once more. Suppose 10 are found there. He answered, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. And the Lord went his way when he had finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So he went back to his tent where Sarah was. So chapter 19. The 2 angels, so maybe the 3 men were 2 angels and the Lord, because now it says the 2 angels. So they continued on their way down to Sodom. The 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of Sodom. So a comment about ancient cities and gateways. The gateway of a city is kind of like, if there's a walled city, then there's the gateway, which you obviously go in and out. But it wouldn't just be, okay, there's a gate. There'd be little rooms, and there would be people sitting around, and any business transactions for the city or even for the people would take place at the entrance to the city. It was kind of like City Hall. It was a place where everybody gathered and sat around and waited. So he's there at the city gate, which is not a strange place to be hanging out, because it's literally the place where people hang out, either to do business or to just see who's there to see. So Lot is hanging out at the city gate in the gateway of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. This is Eastern culture, so he gives some respect and bows down to them. He says, please, my lords, turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you can rise early and go on your way. Remember, hospitality in the ancient Near East is super, super important. And Lot is a good, righteous man who does the righteous thing and offers them hospitality. They said, no, we'll spend the night in the square. But he urged them strongly. So they turned aside to him and entered his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. So he offered them hospitality. He brought them into his house. He's fed them and given them everything that they need. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man, surrounded the house, and they called to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, so that we may know them. So know them is a euphemism for having sex with them. But don't think of it as like, oh, we just want to caress and have a lovely time. Think of it more like we want to rape and abuse them. So not only are they not hospitable, they do not offer the 2 men lodging or food, they actually want to rape and abuse them. Lot went out the door to the men, shut the door after him, and said, I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. So Lot is a righteous man. He practices hospitality, and he's like, no, this is not good. This is not right. This is the part that as a female pastor is very irksome. Look, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. Under the shelter of my roof. I am practicing hospitality. This is the righteous thing to do. You can't just take them and rape them and abuse them. In fact, I'll even offer you my daughters, which just shows you what kind of status women had in that society. Not much. But they replied, stand back. And they said, this fellow came here as an alien, and he would play the judge? this stranger, this outsider, this guy who's come here from somewhere else. And of course, you can live in a place for a very long time, but if it's a small enough town, you're still the stranger that came from somewhere else. And it can be a very, anybody from a small town knows how that works. Well, they weren't born here. And so here's this alien, Lot, who is now telling them how to live righteously, and they're not liking it. Now, we will deal worse with you than with them. So we're going to beat you up and rape you more than we would have raped those two dudes. Then they pressed hard against the man Lot and came near the door to break it down. But the men inside reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck with blindness the men who were at the door of the house, both small and great, so that they were unable to find the door. So this is just, why did they not come in? Because they were struck with blindness and confused, and the angels, the messengers, whatever they are, have said, okay, you guys can't see, now you can't come in. Then the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone you have in the city? Bring them out of this place. So Lot is the man. It's a patriarchal society. Do you have a wife? Do you have daughter? You have two daughters. Do you have anybody else? Who do you have? Gather them up. Bring them out of the place, for we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against its people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. So this people in this city are so unrighteous that the Lord is just going to destroy it completely. So Lot went out. Apparently they're blinded enough, or he used the back door. Went out and said to his sons-in-law, who were to marry his daughters, which means that they are contractually obligated, they are betrothed, but not yet married, so they're still legally sons-in-law. Sons-in-law who were to marry his daughters, up, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city. But he seemed to his sons-in-law to be jesting, which, have to admit, if somebody comes along and says, hey, we have to get out of here, the city's going to be destroyed, it's very hard to believe somebody who comes and says something like that. So 19:15, when morning dawned, the angels urged, which is literally messengers, but angels means messengers, messengers means angels. The angels urged Lot, saying, get up, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or else you will be consumed in the punishment of the city. But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his two daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him, and they brought him out and left him outside the city. So Abraham already negotiated with the Lord, if you can find 10 people, then we won't destroy Sodom. They found Lot and his wife and two daughters. So they at least haul him out of the city before they destroy him. They literally seize him and haul him out of the city. When they had brought them outside, they said, flee for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the hills, or else you will be consumed. So you might remember Lot and Abraham separated, and Lot chose the plain, which was green and lush and beautiful and looked like a wonderful place to live. So they're like, you need to flee the plain. Lot said to them, oh no, my lords, your servant has found favor with you, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life. But I cannot flee to the hills, for fear the disaster will overtake me and I die. Look, that city is near enough to flee to, and it's a little one. Let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my life will be saved. So I love Abraham negotiated with God. If you can find 10 righteous people, will not destroy Sodom. And now Lot is negotiating. Do I have to run all the way across the plain? Can I just go to that little tiny town over there named Zoar? And he said to him, very well, I grant you this favor too, and will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I can do nothing until you arrive there. Therefore the city was called Zoar, which basically means little. So he's going to the little town that's called Little. The sun had risen on the earth when Lot came to Zoar. And recently somebody told me there's a city here in Ohio that is little, called Zoar, made up of people that were fleeing from a group of other Christians by a different denomination, and they fled to Zoar, so they called it Zoar. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven, and he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. So they don't know exactly where this was. There's lots of debate. Of course, everybody wants to find Sodom and Gomorrah because that would be cool. But the southern tip of the Dead Sea is not a pretty and lush area. It's an area with salt pillars and asphalt, like literal, like ground that is just burnt up and gross. It is not a lush place at all. And if nothing else, this explains why that whole area, instead of being lush and green, is all rough and awful, because this is what the Lord did to it. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord, and he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and saw the smoke of the land going up like the smoke of a furnace. So remember, Abraham took the hill country and up in the boonies, while Lot took the plain, and he looked down to see what had happened, and he sees that it's all destroyed. So it was that when God destroyed the cities of the plain, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had settled. So because of Abraham, Lot is saved. Now Lot went up out of Zoar and settled in the hills with his 2 daughters, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. So he lived in a cave with his 2 daughters. So the whole area was known for being unrighteous. For whatever reason, Lot is not willing to stay in Zoar. They go up to the cave. And the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to come in to make us after the manner of all the world." In other words, our fiancés got fried when Sodom and Gomorrah got toasted, and we have no man, and we are women in the ancient Near East. We must have children. It is so important for a woman to have a child, and we have no men and no prospects and no opportunities. What are we going to do? We have to have babies. "Come, let's make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, so that we may preserve offspring through our father." So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she rose. On the next day the firstborn said to the younger, "Look, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine tonight also. Then you go in and lie with him, so that we may preserve offspring through our father." So they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger rose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she rose. We're only in Genesis chapter 19. There is a lot of sex in the Bible, and not all of it very healthy or very good sex. So, thus both daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. Their firstborn bore a son. We don't know the names of either daughters, but we know the names of their sons. They named him Moab. He is the ancestor of the Moabites to this day. And I'll just go and read the next verse. The younger also bore a son and named him Ben-Ami. He is the ancestor of the Ammonites to this day. And this kind of explains sort of this love-hate relationship that the Israelites have with the Moabites and the Ammonites, because technically they're cousins. Lot was Abraham's nephew. Therefore, Lot and Isaac, who is not born yet but about to be, are cousins, and therefore The children of Lot are second cousins to Isaac's son. They're cousins, they're related, they're kin. But we don't like those people, and clearly they must have come from some very suspect origins. In fact, this is the story that the Israelites have passed down, saying that they came from this very incestual and bad relationship. That is enough for tonight. That is the end of chapter 19. But a lot of these stories, if they are factual and historical, they could be. Whether they're historical or whether they are explanatory by the Israelites, they explain why the area south of the Dead Sea is this dried up, asphalt-laden, tar pits, nasty kind of desert area. And it also explains why the Israelites do not get along very well with the Moabites and the Ammonites. Later on, we'll be reading and hearing that, nobody can be a part of God's kingdom unless they're a pure Israelite. And then we have people like Ruth, who was a Moabite and marries an Israelite and becomes an ancestor of King David. So there's different voices within the Bible. There's different pushes. We want to be pure. We want to recognize the importance of all people, including the Moabites. We want to recognize the necessity of taking care of people on the fringes. We want to honor hospitality. It is very important. So that was only a chapter and a half, and I've gone much longer than usual. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord look at you with favor and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace, serve the Lord. Have a great night.